All right. Good morning, School of Light. It is early here in New Mexico. Not really, too early. It's before 7. It's actually just starting to get light outside, if you see there in the window back there. All right. So we finished the book of Genesis. About last part was saying that he brought his brothers to him close to himself and forgave them pretty much. And and said that it was for God's purpose to save people that this had happened to me. And so we ended Genesis, and now we're in chapter 1 of Exodus. Let me get a drink here. We'll start. All right, let's go. These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his own family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali. Gad and Asher, the descendants of Jacob, numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all the generation died, but Israelites were fruitful and multiplied greatly and became exceedingly numerous, so that the land was filled with them. Then a new king who did not know about Joseph came into power in Egypt. Look, he said to this people, the Israelites have become too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, might join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. And they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. Something that just hit me is, they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. Now, forced labor and like working somewhere where someone's lording their position over you is one extreme to the other. But in a way, if you're in the wrong place and you're working, maybe it's because you have a chance to make more money. The bottom line is, money isn't everything. Your job isn't everything. Pray that God leads you into the occupation that would make you happy, that would provide for you and your loved ones, so that you would be a good manager, that you hang out with the right people, that those things. Like I always just say, 90% of your job is the people you work with. Of your job satisfaction, and if you love the people you work with and you're ready to go and you can't wait to see them, that's huge. I don't know why I went off on that tangent. I just did, because I'm doing the video. And maybe it was supposed to speak to somebody. So they multiplied greatly, and they filled. So he said they might fight against us and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. So what does that mean? I mean, to me, the first thing that hit me is, the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied. Well, in my life, I know whenever things are really stressful, that the people, probably for all lifetime since creation, when we're stressed and we're married or in a relationship, like a marriage relationship, you almost lean towards sex more, because it's one of the pleasures that can almost balance out the bad day in a way. So maybe that's one of the reasons that they multiplied so fast. But it does say the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with hard labor and brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the field. And all their hard labor, the Egyptians used them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you help the Hebrew women in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this to us? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like these Egyptian women. They are vigorous, and give birth before the midwives arrive." I always used to joke about my mom because I was the sixth child, and they say that when she had me, she was cleaning the house, cleaning these windows that are behind me, and just doing all kinds of stuff. And I used to joke with people that my mom was like a Hebrew woman, where she went in, she like pushed or sneezed, I came out, and she came back, cooked, finished cleaning, and that's how these women are described in a way. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. He blessed the midwives for not aborting these baby boys. And another thing too, boys. Why the baby boys? Another thing too I notice is that whenever the devil is trying to stop something from happening, then he will attack them when they're babies or before, very young. And I'm just going to give you this example right here, for example. Another, this example, if you want to think about or imagine this, is Satan had some kind of a knowledge that Moses or God was doing something, Moses or somebody like Moses might come. And so maybe put it in Pharaoh's heart, let's kill all these boys so that this deliverer won't ever be born. Well, he'll be born, but he won't ever live past one or into childhood. Look at Jesus. When he was born and the wise men went to Herod, Herod sent people over, or soldiers, into 2 towns to kill all the children in those 2 towns that were around the age of around the time period that Christ was born. Because he didn't know which one was Jesus or not. So these midwives refused to kill these boys. And because of that, and because they feared God, he gave them families of their own as a reward for righteousness, for obedience, for being good, for doing good. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all of his people: "Every boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live." So now he's past the midwives, because the midwives aren't doing what he wants, right? So he's like, "Hey, everybody, you have a boy, give it to the crocodiles." Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she couldn't do it no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch to make it waterproof. That's my words, to make it waterproof. But she coated it with tar and pitch, which would make it waterproof, right? Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me. I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. So Moses' mom continued to be involved in Moses' life, because she would let him suck, and she nursed him, even though Pharaoh's daughter kind of took the role in her mind. She was the mother of this baby, and the real mother of Moses, who was nursing him, she did not know that that was a real mother. So that was a blessing, really. It's hard enough to get rid, I'm sure, of Moses, your mother. I really can't understand being a mother. There's something different there, I think. But I can Um, where was my thought process going? So yeah, yeah. Oh, so it's got to be hard enough, and then for God to work it out so that she's the one that ends up nursing Moses. Is talk about a blessing for Moses' mother to be still around him and for him to be saved from the Nile. Okay, so she says, take the baby, nurse him for me. I will pay. And she's getting paid for it. So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were, and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Glancing this way and that, and seeing that no one was looking, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one, what's wrong? Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? The man said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Ruler over us. Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. You know, a lot of times we carry things on until they become known. And it's good that it comes out into the light. In this case, it was good because it's what drove one of the catalysts that got Moses out of Egypt around God for 40 years. He shepherded, he met Sapphira. He had a child with her, just a family. It's really cool. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue. Okay, I skipped way too much. I'm sorry. So what he did must have become known. When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest in Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to the rescue and watered the flock. When the girls returned to Reu, their father, he asked them, why have you returned so early? They answered, an Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered our flock. And where is he? He asked his daughters. Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat. Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. All right. So, you know, the Bible isn't going to detail everything because these stories, there's so many time periods and probably so many details in every one of these stories. So I really don't think that Zipporah, you know, meets Moses at 9 in the morning. Her dad says, hey, bring him over here. We'd like to meet him. And then by the end of the evening, he says, you know what? Zipporah, you belong to Moses. Do you want Zipporah? Moses, you want her? She's got beautiful curly hair. He's like, yeah. All right. I don't think it was like that. I think it was probably that first encounter was, like it said, you know, he drew the water out for them and fed them. And then maybe he went there to eat. And then over some time, he gave Zipporah to Moses in marriage, I think. I don't think it was all on the same day. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become an alien in a foreign land. During the long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. He's looking at us. He's looking at you. He's concerned about you. He is more than concerned about you. It's like think of, and you and I, we suck at, in comparison to the passion, the drive that God has for us. And a concern is such a constricting word. It should be called great concern or heartfelt concern or um, because I feel like God loved these people more than, well, if you imagine, you have a good wife and you love her, you feel connected, you know that if it's up to you, you will be with her until either you or she is buried, whether you have to, whatever, because you love this woman from the soles of her feet, toe to heel, fingertip, head to soul. And from the back, you love this girl. Take that passion, stuff like that we as humans have, and as a point of reference for yourself to understand what it means, what God has concern for him. He's caring. It's like the word concern here is so constricting. I wish I had the words, but if the Holy Spirit would just open up your heart and mind to, God had at this time, I don't know how many, there's maybe a couple 100,000 or something, I don't know, maybe more, Hebrews, and he's constantly with them every day, every second. He's doing something, and he's a shepherd. So his love is more than just what our words can say. So it says God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. So he's looking at you and he's concerned about you, very much so. He's concerned about me. He's concerned about my mom. He's concerned about my daughter. He's concerned about my friends. He's concerned about. Sometimes God puts it in your heart, a concern, and you don't even know where it came from. It's just like 1 minute there's nothing, not nothing, but that's not there, and then the next minute there's concern. It's like a pressure. It's a good pressure. It's a prayer pressure. It's like you're praying for this person. You're praying for their protection. You're praying for their to be kept from attack. You're praying for their kid. You're praying for the people that they're associating with. That you pray for. It's like that. It's more than just concern. And I guess I'm better end it because it's almost at 20 minutes for 2 chapters. But get into this word, guys. And if you want a structured Bible study correspondence course, we'll send it to you. Just let me know. No cost, not a penny. Okay. You fill out the course. I mean, you answer the questions. You send it back to us in a pre-addressed stamped envelope. We keep track of that. We reward you. We send you certificates of completion, things like that. So be part of School of Light if you'd like to grow in that way. And if you just want to listen to the Bible readings, that's fine too. But I encourage you to get deep. Get deep. God bless. Have a good day.